So, today's conversation, we'll go over loss. Loss in time. Because loss is something you technically always got to deal with. This becomes something that is something that's very consistent in most of our lives. The notion of loss, whether it's losing someone, it's in passing away, whether it's in the loss of like a relationship, friends, things of this nature, whether it's the loss of time, right? We're always dealing with a sense of loss or gain. That's just the nature of things. So today, we're just going to talk about some simple ways and strategies of dealing with loss and dealing with it on an emotional level, dealing with it on a perspective level, kind of getting through it, because everyone has gone through, felt, experienced some type of loss in their life and many different scales. So with this conversation here, we're just going to do a little bit of conversation, just start a little dialogue about some things I use to help cope with loss and get through it. Now again, some of these things may not work for you. Some of these things with your astrological energy and things of that nature you'll find you don't really need to work on, you'll need to do, or you'll have certain other ways of coping, things of that nature. But I'm going to go over some of the things that I like to do, some of the things I use, and go through some times in my life like where I'm using them. I'm currently coping with loss at the moment, loss of a relationship. So running you through my mindset, running you through the way that I kind of go about things might help some of you guys with other senses, things of that nature. Touched on a little bit yesterday, but I figured I'd give a full video on it today. Now that I've had a little bit of time to sit back and get through these things. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to coping with loss, right, is to just acknowledgement, right, that whatever that was something that affects you. We have to first feel. That's the hardest part, right? That's the part that most people try and block out, most people try and look away from, most people really don't know how to cope with. The first part, the initial part, is that you have to feel the pain first. You have to allow it to at least resonate for a little bit. You have to catch it for a second. Why? Why is that? A lot of people like to block out right from the beginning, automatically. No, you always want to feel the pain for a little bit, because if I allow myself to at least hold the pain for a bit, if I allow myself to at least feel the pain, then I can realize that was an important thing to lose, that was an important thing to have at one point that thing mattered, right? Because when you're moving on and coping with anything, right, you have to first acknowledge that position of that person. You have to acknowledge that position of that thing. You have to acknowledge the segment of time or whatever it is that you're losing, right? Because again, we're constantly losing and gaining in this life. You're losing time, you're losing money, you're losing all these different things, but you're also gaining a lot of other things too. You're gaining insight, you're gaining experience, you're gaining new people into your life. So with always the drop of one, we have an elevation of another. So what we have to notice is that this is all exchange, right? This notion of equivalent exchange, which comes through notions of karma and things of that nature, because everything in life swings from one side to the other and then comes back no matter what. So loss is nothing but a form of gain. Now when I say that, I mean loss, taking loss, understanding loss is a way of turning it into a form of gain, because it's about the perspective that comes in with it. Now, a lot of people have trouble with this, with the notion of transmuting emotions. This is what is the toughest part to move with today. This is one of those real stop points for people, because being able to transmute emotion, to understand loss, will help you gain every single time, because in every loss there's a lesson. That's why there's similar letters. Right? There's always lesson and loss, and I have to take that and put it into my gains so I can move forward, right? Because loss is a beautiful thing in a sense, right? Loss, it's the most beautiful sadness you can ever acknowledge, right? Because something leaves, it opens the door for something new. However, whatever was there, most of the time was something that mattered, something that you feel, no matter what it is. Whether it was money, because money took energy to build and create and grab. So now I take this. If I lose it, I'm looking to always gain something from it so I can equate that time. Now, money is never really an equation for time. It never really ever like properly equates itself. But however, it is something important. So I think in this life, one of the greatest things that we can understand is that loss is inevitable. Loss is something real, it's guaranteed. So my perspective on loss can't be one that restricts me and restricts my notion for the rest of my life, because it's something that keeps appearing and showing its presence. Now, there's beauty, like I said before, there's beauty in loss. Because if a loss really affects you, it had to really matter in order to really affect you. So if you really mattered, that means that you mattered so much to me that the loss of you from my life disrupts my normal pattern, disrupts what I'm doing. That's an amazing thing. That's an amazing notion to have anyone affect us on that level. However, we find that in our lives, a lot of us are, I want to say, greedy with our loved ones, greedy with people that we care about. We want them there forever. Like, we don't want you, we want you here forever. But that's not always the case. And life shows us too much that everything is always in motion. The law of vibration. Everything is always moving. Everything is always making moves in different directions, right? So it's almost impossible to say that two moving objects are always going to be moving within the same path, right? It's hard to say that every bit of time and effort that you put into something is always going to be what is supposed to yield you the most and the best life. All these different notions. So what do, right? What's there to take away? So with every loss, like we said before, there's a lesson. There's something that was taught to you within that loss. No loss ever comes without a lesson. If you lose a loved one, they pass away, right? There's always something about their personality, there's always something about their life that you can pull and use for your movement forward. There's something that was a takeaway that you can take away from that experience. And that's the beautiful thing we have as being human. We are able to look at situations, and if we look at them the right way, if we look at them with understanding, and we look at them with a sense of true reflection, you can understand what every relationship, what every passing, what every time, what every pendulum swing meant, and what it means for the future, what it's doing for the future. Because we essentially are always learning lessons in your day-to-day. If you really are looking to humble yourself, look for lessons in everything. Live in the moment in a sense where you're looking to learn, because every moment is a moment for possible growth. Every moment is a moment to check yourselves. Every moment is a moment to take something in and maybe change a little thing in your life. And that's hard, like it's hard sometimes. Because it's hard to accept the loss. It's hard to accept things going away. It's hard to accept change. We like to have control, right? As humans, we're dying for the idea and notion of control. That's why we do certain things. That's why we have pets, right? We get these animals and then we want to exude our control upon them. We have kids not for any other nature than to have kids. Like when you have kids, you're usually trying to raise a kid to be like something. So you're trying to exert a little bit control on them to get a desired reward, right? We love the notion of control as humans because there's such a lack of control, right? In the grand scheme of things, we do not have the control that we think we have. We have control over certain things. And even the things that we have control over, we don't usually exude the proper control over those things. We look for controlling in other things, right? So most of us don't have a control over our eating. We don't have a control over our emotional perspective on things of this nature. However, we're always looking to get into relationships where there's an interaction and a sense of control between two people, a sense of responsibility. We do not accept the first responsibility for ourselves. So within all of these things, we become very interdependent, right? And that's where we see that loss is the most effective to us. It has the greatest effect on us because our interdependence, this notion that we don't really have the control on our lives, we don't have the control on the things that we need to have control of, force us to seek control in other things. And that's tough. That's a whole tough thing, right? Because there are people who are always trying to exude control over all different situations. They're trying to control their life, trying to move this way, when life is always shows you that there's no way to really control it. So life is about moving to places that matter, places that allow you to have the most control and understanding over certain things, right? We live in a place where there's a lot of people controlling a lot of different things, and like our money goes towards that, right? If I go and spend money at a store and they tax my money, they tax my food, or they tax my clothes or whatever, those taxes go to the federal government. Most of our money in the federal government is going toward wars, going towards things like that in this country, right? If I pay for my electric bill, right? We use dirty forms of electricity, right? We're not using any renewable energy sources. So all my money is going towards things that are making things worse. I'm supporting these things. If I am doing all different types of things, if I'm pooping in a toilet, the craziest thing is that there's karma attached to pooping in your toilet, right? They use your poop for methane gas, and like now we're out here clogging up the universe with our poop, and like this is things that, like, when you look into all of this, it gets intense. Most people just don't want to know where it goes once it flushes and all this stuff like that. So that's something you gotta live with, and that's the thing that's scary. We can't exude an amount of control. There's so much that is really out of control. We gotta trust, right? We look at these certain we look at some of these different notions that are around, right? And when I think about certain notions, when I think about certain things, it's stuff concerning like your food. Look at where we go, the videos we have of the farmers now that are polishing their foods and their fruits and their vegetables so that they can have a brighter color so they sell better, right? So they're covering up, they're putting makeup on fruit now. Why? Because we're putting makeup on ourselves. We're doing these things to cover ourselves up, so it's a notion in society now. Everyone is changing themselves. We're constantly trying to process ourselves, process our bodies, to the point where now people think it's okay to dunk your food in wax. And then a lot of people are eating it unsuspectingly, things of that nature. So we're in a scary time, a time where you have a little bit of control, right? So the things that we do have around us, the things that we can control, we get so fixated on sometimes. We fixate on the notion of control that we have. knowing that nothing is ever in our control. Hey, hey, no, no, my brother's dogs. Chill, chill, relax, everything's good. Okay, cool. Alright, so the things that we can't control, we end up trying to over control. We end up trying to move and do things just solely based on the fact that, okay, these are things that I have, I can control this, and I'm good here. But the world shows you that that's an illusion, right? So essentially, life is about detachment from these things. Understanding that the only thing you really have is this, the only thing I really have is this, that's always going to be here. Because everything else in your life fluctuates, right? You have a different set of friend group usually throughout your life. You have different styles throughout your life, right? You have different clothing articles that you wear throughout your life. You have different like family members that you might be closer with throughout your life. You have different jobs. You have different places you live. All these different things. Now, some of us are very fixed. We have one certain place that we do everything at. We stay at. But we like, because again, we like to have control over our environment. So we like to stay in a particular place for as long as we can. We like to go to certain places over and over and over and do certain things over and over, because that's like a notion of what it means to have control. In familiar environments, you can feel a sense of control. Right, when I came back here to the East Coast, I could feel like a sense of control, but this isn't something that I want. I don't want this sense of control because I understand it's not real. There's no real sense of in life where you have a sense of control. It's about living with a detachment from that control and realizing that you always get what you need. And that's been something tough for me, because that's a loss for me, right? For me, I'm taking and dealing with a loss. I'm dealing with loss in a sense, and it's different than the loss that other people are dealing with. Because my loss comes in a way where I have to I'm separating from people that I'm close to. I'm separating things that I used to be involved in. I'm separating from habits. I'm making steps to try and separate from all these different things, and it's hard. Because you find out there are certain people attached to certain habits. You find that there are things attached to certain places, and all of these different things you have to start to realize. Wow. In order for me to change my life, sometimes I gotta change everything. You have to empty your cup. I have to pour it out. Because right now there's cups that are filled with things, right? Like you have a cup full of social understandings that you gotta pour out, right? We have a cup full of nutritional understanding, lifestyle understanding. You gotta pour that out. We have a cup of people, just people in your life, people that you have relationships. You gotta pour that out sometimes. And then once it's empty, then you gotta sit there and say, damn, okay, this is empty. Now I gotta figure out how to fill this. How do you fill this cup now? That's the universe job. That's that out of control piece. That's that accepting the notion that you don't have control, but you've always been okay. And that's where I'm trying to get. I'm trying to beat that ego down to that point before I can get out of here. Before I go to Costa Rica, I need to get to myself to that point. To a notion where the cup is completely full, but it's going to be completely empty once I get on that plane, but everything will be okay. Because everything has been okay. No matter what, it was tough up to this point, you always get through. Adversity is nothing but something to get through and get over. An obstacle is nothing but a way to challenge yourself. Life would be too easy if there weren't obstacles, right? It wouldn't be worth it. Because it's the progress, it's the struggle that makes it worth it. Correct? It's the struggle, it's not the success, right? Success is in the process, right? When I think about that, think about the Mobar. When Mobar would go, we were setting it up, we were stressing the whole entire time, just stressing out. Then the truck gets finished and it's done, and it's damn, the business is gonna start rolling. right? The bid started rolling. It's just like, whoa. Like there were so many little victories along the way to the final product that once the final product comes out, it's like, oh shit, it's out, right? It's out, but you never get that. Like, but when you think about these things, you think about this like these overall, all-encompassing movie type moments, right? Think of life as a movie. We think of life as a TV show. We think of life always having to be these like amazing, stretch like overly dramatized movie with the cast and extras, right? But what we find is that it was the development, because it was the things you learned, the lessons along the way, the strength you developed, right? The knowledge of self that in the end gets to shine through, right? Gets to leave you empowered, because that's what we're trying to do, is feel that sense of control. What's the way of feeling in control? It's a sense of being empowered, and everyone's trying to be empowered. And the major way to fight loss is through empowerment. The more I can empower myself within a loss, the better I can cope. If I let a loss take me down, if you let a loss define you, you become weak, and you don't step forward, you don't progress in life. But loss is supposed to empower. You're supposed to find the beauty in the loss, the beautiful sadness in the loss. Because there is always sadness, because there's always a harsh reality that comes. But you have to find the lesson from the loss. And then the beauty rings through. Then the strength in you develops. Then you become able to magnify yourself. And that's the key. Okay. Till next time, my friends. I love myself. I love you all. Have a great weekend.